Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming and a very warm welcome to everybody. This is our annual Kidscreen briefing event that we hold so that all of you can get an idea of what's happening in the market. We've got people here to give you some information on both the event at Kidscreen so that you can decide whether to come. We've also got an amazing array of people with so much knowledge to be able to help you decide whether to come and to help you navigate through the current market. I'm Sarah Baynes. I'm Vice Chair of the Children's Media Conference Advisory Board, and I have a company that I run called The Creative Garden. Greg.
And I'm Greg Childs. I'm the editorial director of the Children's Media Conference, and a big welcome. It's great to see everyone here today. UK at Kidscreen is a partnership with our good friends at the Department for Business and Trade. And they are good friends because they help by funding it. The mission's been going to Kidscreen in various locations across the US for over 10 years now. The market has shifted and changed in all that time. It's been up, it's been down, and it's been around and about. But the UK's always had a strong foothold there at Kidscreen, and people come back with considerable wins in terms of confirmed contracts and commitments for co-production deals and partnerships. That's also a win for UK industry in general, and that's not gone unnoticed by those in influence who have helped put children's media on the map, especially at places like the Department for Business and Trade, because politically and financially, it's really important that we report those wins. So that's why we want to welcome you to the delegation, because the more people who join it, the more people we can count, as it were, the more people the Department for Business and Trade can tell the Treasury are making a success of their visits to Kidscreen, and we get support in the future. So we want you to ask questions in this webinar. The chat isn't enabled for you to chat to us or to one another, so please use the Q&A button, which I think is, that's down there at the bottom of the screen, Q&A button. That will allow you to ask a question. I will be patrolling the questions and making sure that they're sent forward to Sarah for inclusion in the chat. So ask away as frequently as you want and during the webinar itself. Don't be shy and don't wait until the end. Back to you, Sarah.
Absolutely don't wait, because what we want to make is this to be a very collaborative experience, and we've got a series of contributors I mentioned earlier from a range of different areas. They're going to join in a panel to talk more about the markets and how they see it. We're going to have a view from an LA, a view from live action in the UK, and a view from an indie, so that everybody can get a flavour of where people are seeing things at the moment. They're going to share their thoughts, but we're going to look at logistics, trends, and practical tips, particularly in the current climate, so that all of you start really strong at the beginning of 2024. Whether that's coming to Kidscreen, whether it's not coming to Kidscreen, you can decide. But let's work out where we are. So to do that, first of all, we're going to find out more about Kidscreen itself. As a lot of you may know, it's moved from Miami to San Diego. So we need to know what the change means for us on a practical level. So we're delighted to welcome on board Maggie Wilkins-Hobbs, who is Associate Publisher at Kidscreen. Hi, Maggie. How are you? Lovely to see you again. For those of you that are new to Kidscreen, as I say, she's the associate publisher, but more importantly than anything else, Maggie is our champion-in-chief. She helps us navigate through for the UK, how we can integrate and get the best out of going to what is the biggest market for the kids world in the North American territories. I know, Maggie, you've got a brief slideshow for us to go and get a glimpse of both San Diego, what we can get out of San Diego, and what we can expect from the market. So she has to go after her slot. So that's going to encourage you to put things in the Q&A that you want to ask her specifically while she's going through her slide deck? So I'm going to pass over to Maggie. Maggie, the slideshow is yours.
Thank you, Sarah. Hi, everyone. I see some names in our attendee list here that I recognize. So lots of return attendees and hopefully some new ones. I've had the privilege of working on Kidscreen in some capacity in the past 10 years. CMC's commitment to making the most out of their mission to Kidscreen is unparalleled. The UK at Kidscreen attendees get a ton of support from the team here, and I really feel like their commitment to the group makes Kidscreen a success for everybody who puts in the work, and it sets the group apart from the other international delegations. Kidscreen is very excited to introduce you to our new home in San Diego. The 2024 event is taking place Sunday, February 4th to Wednesday, February 7th at the Marriott Marquis in San Diego, California. Next slide, please. The decision to move the event wasn't made lightly. We felt that post-COVID, the event needed a refresh. We were out of space to grow in our existing venue, and the location in the downtown core of Miami made it difficult for attendees to get to dinner quickly and safely. Over the past couple of years, we also received feedback from our attendees that Kidscreen should take place in a location that was supportive and safe for the LGBTQ community, and Florida no longer felt like that safe space for our delegates to discuss diversity and inclusion in our industry. So we looked for venues, and San Diego met all those criteria and more. The Marriott Marquis is in the heart of San Diego and only a 15-minute drive from the airport and easily accessible by car or train for those coming from LA. The city is small but buzzing, with very cool restaurants and bars all right outside the hotel. As always, we are offering registered attendees a discounted accommodation rate at the venue, and you can find a link to book on our website in your confirmation email following registration. I highly recommend that you stay on site. The rate is comparable to most hotels nearby, and you can't beat the bonus of bumping into people after dinner or over drinks at the hotel. Next slide, please. So right outside the doors of the hotel is the Gaslamp Quarter. The Gaslamp Quarter is a lively neighborhood with ample of choices for restaurants and bars for in the evening. No Uber ride needed. Also, along the boardwalk, you have Seaport Village, which is a great option for lunch meetings as it's only a 1 to 2 minute walk from the venue along the water. I've been to San Diego twice now to visit the venue, and although the weather isn't as hot as Miami, the city was warm, sunny, and friendly. Next slide, please. For those who haven't been to Summit before, I want to give a quick rundown of the event and who attends. So we have executives and creators join from every corner of the industry, and that includes TV, programming, acquisitions, and development executives, as well as producers, distributors, digital media execs, licensors, and marketers as well. And I think this year, more than ever, attendees will be looking to expand their network and connect with others who can add to their business plans in unexpected ways. As always, Kidscreen Summit is the place to initiate deals, but it's also a great way to learn from each other and keep up with what's happening in the industry and in the current climate. Next slide, please. Last year, we welcomed over 1,800 attendees from over 50 countries worldwide. For this year's edition, we're seeing a growth in attendance from companies in APAC, just because of the access is a little bit better for them. And we're also welcoming new delegations all the way from India, and we're seeing growth in delegations such as Ireland and Italy as well. So we suspect similar numbers to 2023, if not more. Next slide, please. We just released our full program on Wednesday, so I encourage you to take a look on our website at the exciting keynotes, panels, and networking sessions that we are offering this year. On Sunday, we open the market floor and registration at 10 a.m., followed by structured networking sessions in the afternoon and our opening cocktail party in the evening on the pool deck. Monday to Wednesday are full conference days. There's a full program of content and networking opportunities, as well as attendees will be scheduling and taking meetings of their own in the delegate lounge and in our outdoor meeting space. Monday will feature the Kidscreen Awards and cocktail, and Wednesday we'll finish off with our closing cocktail celebration. Clearly, we like cocktails, and all the cocktail parties, breakfast and lunch are included with your registration. But just a quick note that there are no meals provided on the first day, which is Sunday. Our facilitated and organized networking sessions really make us stand out from the other markets. This year, we're offering speed pitching, mix and mingle, lunch and learn, 30 minutes with, ask an expert, and pitch prep. Speed pitching is one of our most popular sessions. It's one-on-one 8-minute pitches with top broadcasters and investors who have the power to greenlight your project. Mix and mingle, this lively table hopping format lets you spend a little time socializing with a bunch of key execs from the industry, from channels and streaming platforms. Ask an Expert is a drop-in session where you have the opportunity to get free advice and guidance from experienced specialists in niche areas of the entertainment industry. Pitch Prep, our one-on-one consults. Some of the industry's most talented pitchers will take a look at your materials and give you advice on how to deliver them with more punch. Lunch and Learn, spend some quality times in small groups with development, financing, and production experts who can give you the advice about how to get your kids' TV concept off the ground and into the pipeline. And one of my favorites, which is 30 minutes with. These are sessions that give you the chance to hear about the future plans and priorities of the kids industry's major content investors firsthand, as well as participate in some Q&A. Next slide, please. A tool that we offer with your registration is access to Kidscreen Exchange. Our exchange for the year just launched this week. Here you can review a delegate list, reach out through the messaging function, build your schedule by adding sessions to your personal agenda. New this year, when you register for the event, you will be asked if you would like to share your email address with other attendees. This will make your direct email available for meeting requests instead of relying on the messaging function to the platform. I know that lots of you will be excited about this function. It's something that we've received feedback over the years for us to do, and we are introducing it for the first time this year. You can also download the attendee list from Exchange, making it easier to track outreach for meeting requests. And last slide, please. That is my little spiel of the event, but please feel free to put in any questions in the Q&A. I also have my email address up on the screen. You're welcome to email me anytime with any questions, and I look forward to meeting you all in San Diego.
Thanks so much, Maggie. That was a brilliant romp through. And I love the fact that we're going to get emails. That's going to make all the difference.
Yeah, I mean, there will still be people who don't want to share their email addresses, like any of our major markets, but it's just going to make things a little bit easier.
Yeah, exactly. And I presume that some of the great and the good can put their assistance in, and at least you're one step closer.
Exactly.
Now, we have one question, which I think is probably in the minds of quite a few of the others who are online. Tom Stewart has kindly shared on behalf of the rest of the team, will the major US studios be attending Kidscreen in 2024? Presumably it's hard to say whether they're looking for UK and European projects in the current climate, but I think that's probably driven by quite a few markets recently. Quite a few of the bigger players have been hiding, should we say?
Yeah, I think for the most part, we're seeing the major US studios in attendance, especially since so many of them are close by in LA. It's not a far distance for them to travel. So we are seeing teams coming from those major studios. Again, it's whether they're seeking projects at the moment is hard to say, but we saw at MIPCOM that people are still having conversations. They're still meeting, whether they're actively seeking new IP or not. So hopefully we'll see that, our UK attendees will still get those meetings and have those conversations with major US studios.
And I think we'll get there because I think Jeremy, who we're coming to next, has got a very comprehensive notes on what's happening in the current markets. And then we have a view from LA and various others coming in later who've been at recent markets. And I think the view is keep your relationships going, hence the networking piece for you. And by going along and mixing with those people and pitching, when things come through, you'll be one step ahead. You'll have developed things further. So We'll get to that later, but that's the top. Greg.
Yeah, it's a good practical question from Georgina Hercombe. Is there a discount code for airlines? Sometimes events have them. We don't have that relationship in the UK delegation, Georgina. It's a really difficult one to set up. Maggie, there isn't one, is there?
No, we've actually looked at them in the past, and unfortunately, they just weren't worthwhile from the sense that the airline sales were usually better than the discount codes they were giving to us.
Yeah.
So it's best to just keep an eye out on places like Expedia or the airlines directly to try and get a deal there.
Yeah, we've always found that as well.
Now, we've got another question. While we wait for the Georgina saying thank you. While we wait for a few other questions, again, I can hear people wanting to have asked this afterwards, after you've disappeared. In terms of the networking events, some of those are ticketed or timed, as in you have to apply. And then there's quite a little posse of people working out what time they have to go on and getting ready and being on webinars going, hang on a minute, I've just got to go on and click. How many opportunities are they going to get to do those things that you had on your screen earlier?
Yeah, so they are limited. We limit them to try and make it as fair as possible to our 1,800 delegates in attendance. So we do pre-signups. Many of them are done through a lottery system to try and make it as fair as possible for different time zones or different parts of the world. So you're usually given a window of time to select your favorites, your top hosts for, let's say, speed pitching. And then once that lottery closes, the lottery then spits out who has won those slots. But once that's finished, when we're on site, we do have wait lines for most of our networking sessions. And I highly recommend waiting in the lines if you're looking to score extra spots. There's no limit to how many times you can go into speed pitching and meet with different hosts. Lots of people don't show up for their selected spot for whatever reason. And I have seen people go in 5 different times in one session just by waiting in the line and getting to meet with everybody they want to meet with. So don't get discouraged if you don't get what you want in the pre-signups, because there are still opportunities on site to participate in those networking events.
I think it's really important for us to, be aware of the dynamics of events like that. And that's why when you come with CMC, you come with people whose job it is to run an event like this ourselves. So we're very aware of the dynamics of when you need to be at a certain thing if you really want to be there for best advantage, that not to hang around too long, but to be there at just the right time. And the realities of the way these things work, which is that people will get a slot, say for something quite advantageous, but at the same time they'll get the offer of the one meeting they really wanted, and it'll be at exactly the same time. So what are they going to do? Of course they're going to go to their meeting. So it's not like the slots aren't valuable, they're hugely valuable, but people just get interrupted and people get delayed. So you end up having a meeting that is actually progressing well, something good is coming from it. What are you going to do? You're not going to walk away, are you? Because you've got your next thing to go to that is more speculative than that meeting. So be aware when you look into things like this that there is a dynamic for the flow of people at the event.
Definitely. And I would just suggest that everybody keeps an eye on their emails once they are registered after the holidays, because we will send out all the information on how to sign up for these sessions in advance during that time. So keep an eye out on, I know it's a busy time of year after the holidays, but keep an eye out for Kidscreen emails.
I would also say the queues, a lot of people were coming back from those queues, having met people in the queue who were more useful sometimes than going in and doing the pitch, where you were one of many, where in the queue you were meeting people, and we'll get onto that again later. But the queues are a really good place to actively network with people you might not ever cross paths with. So I think that's a really important.
Yeah, and I think too, a lot of times when attendees are coming for the first time, they're hyper fixated on meeting with buyers and forget about the networking opportunities with people in the line, other creators, producers, production companies who can partner with them to advance their projects and their IPs. And I think it's important to be open to meeting with more than just buyers. Meet with other people and see how they can help you in your journey.
Well, the other thing, and I'm adding it in now because I don't know that we'll get to it later, is in those meetings, you might get allocated somebody, and unless you know them very well, I think this is a waste of time because I'm seeing them at lunchtime. Those people because you go to the front and you sometimes have the option of one or two, but what people say is just go and take that opportunity, because either it can be practice, but you get feedback and you also get to meet somebody again that you may not have thought you needed to meet, but actually by talking to them, they'll give you some advice. They might give you somebody else that you can go and talk to. So all of that is really important. And I think further down, we will be discussing more about how to get ready to network and networking. But that seems to be the really important thing, is in person, going and talking to people briefly, and knowing your personal brand for that.
Definitely. Yeah, I would agree.
And the other thing that I'm going to add in at this point is I've already had my first person on the Kidscreen exchange who I don't know messaging me saying, looking forward to seeing you next year. I just thought I'd introduce myself. So get in there as soon as you have made the decision and start looking at it. And the other thing, Maggie, that again, we might come to again later, but you normally have a file in there, a CVS file that you can export into Excel. And then you can use that to have as your database. So, and I always say to people, keep downloading it because it gets updated, but use it rather than trying to hop around and work out who's there, which takes a lot longer.
Yes, so the CSV file can be uploaded from Exchange delegate list, and it's updated in real time. So you can actually sort the Exchange delegate list by new registrants or people who have registered after a certain date. So if you've already downloaded the list, you can look at who is new. And for those who aren't registered yet, we have a delegate list on our website that is public, and you can see who is attending. If you're curious about specific companies or attendees, you can look through the list there, and that's updated in real time as well.
Although I would say sometimes some of the ones you want to get to don't put their names in till late.
That's true. We see the majority of our registrations happen between now, when our delegations start to register, and just after the new year. So we see a huge influx of registrations. So keep an eye on the delegate list.
So I think Greg had his hand up, but meanwhile, Nick Harvey's asking, have you got access to the UK stand on Sunday to book meetings? I think that the event is starting at 10 o'clock on Sunday morning. Is that right? What we're doing, and we're going to just lock it off, is probably hold some of those, or hold the tables back in the morning, because we'll probably do a group meeting in the morning. We're going to have breakfast briefings during the week, and we'll probably start on Sunday with an informal one at the tables so that everybody can come together, people can meet each other, and then we'll have people there to talk to, and also so you can get some advice if you want to. So Nick, yes, but more likely to be free from lunchtime onwards.
We do have lots of general meeting space in the new location. It's a larger venue without feeling like you're being swallowed alive by it. So we will have lots of general meeting space available on Sunday, both indoor and outdoor, for if whatever reason you can't book your table at the UK stand.
And I gather there's plenty of sea view as well.
Yes.
We've got plenty of light and sunshine.
Yeah, you know what? The new venue is floor to ceiling bright windows in the foyer area, and it's so nice to sit out there and look at the palm trees. So highly recommend doing that a couple times a day to get some sunlight.
So just a quick question, very quick question, because I know we need to be tight on time. Tom Stewart is coming back. Not greedy or anything, Tom. 2 questions. Hello. Are the major European broadcasters also making the trip this year? He wants to know. He's very focused, is Tom. He's very focused on broadcasters. Good for you.
And you know what?
And are they involved in the Kidscreen speed pitching and networking events?
This one is a popular question this year. There's been lots of rumors that the Europeans aren't coming to Kidscreen, but I can tell you they are. We're seeing you guys are. We had the biggest Irish delegation we've ever had register yesterday, which we're very excited about. But in terms of broadcasters, yes, all the major players are coming and they are participating in our networking events. They are being registered over the next couple of weeks. So keep an eye on the agenda. If you click into the sessions, you'll be able to see who our hosts are in those sessions, as well as you can see on the speaker page.
And we can say that the BBC are actually coming in the UK delegation this year. That's the broadcast side of the BBC. So, we're a very broad church. We welcome not just producers, writers, and composers and others, but people who basically represent the UK in different ways. And the BBC came with us last year and will be coming again this year.
Wonderful.
So thank you very much, Maggie. I'm sure people will have questions. Tom, keep asking those questions, and others help Tom because it's really useful. We want to get it as if we were all in a room and everybody was able to have access to Maggie or whoever we're talking to. So please keep the questions going. Tom, keep it going. And thank you, Maggie.
Bye, it was nice seeing you.
Thank you. And we look forward to seeing you in the sunshine. Next up, we're delighted to have Jeremy Dickson. Jeremy is the Features and Special Projects Editor at Kidscreen, and he's worked there for over 12 years. I did find, Jeremy, a picture. I haven't got it with me, but I found a Kidscreen brochure from the first year you were there. So I was sorting through my things. You've been there a long time, building up connections and building up a database in your head as well as in your computer. And what we talked about was you being able to download some of that today to our audience so that people can have a snapshot of how you think the market is currently and what they might be angling things at for the spring. Now, Jeremy has got lots of links to go with what he's saying. Lauren's captured them all and she's going to put them up when we finish so that there will be more data you can look at coming out of what Jeremy's saying. Jeremy, can I pass over to you?
Oh, great, thanks. Thanks, Sarah. Can you hear me okay? Everything good? Fantastic.
Perfect.
Yeah, I just wanted to say it's great to see you again and everyone, Greg and you, Sarah, and thank you to Maggie who provided some excellent information about Kidscreen Summit San Diego 2024. I haven't been to San Diego before, so it's good for me to see some of that information too. I get a little bit of it in the day-to-day here in Toronto while we're planning the event, but it's nice to see a little bit more of it because I'm really looking forward to going and meeting some familiar faces there and hopefully a lot of new faces because that's always fantastic as well. So thank you for having me. I'll try to get through some of this. I'm not quite sure exactly how much time I have, Sarah. 5 minutes, 10 minutes? Is it 5?
No. You can have at least 15.
Oh, okay. Well,
we want to hear as much as possible because I've read your deck and you've got so much.
I won't be able to get through. I won't be able to get through all of it, but and I'm more aware of certain things than other things, and I'll make notes of those. But there will be links available. I'll be throwing to some of our own coverage on kidscreen.com, whether that's an online story or a recent mag story. I've got some links to a few studies and just some recent reports or stories from other press outlets, kind of that are good examples of some key things that are happening in the industry right now, and I'll look ahead to next year. So I'll just sort of give sort of a quick overall state of the industry and try to sort of mention some things that people in the UK that maybe haven't been to Kidscreen Summit before could find helpful in their decision-making process about whether to come this year or next year, or next year or the year after. So basically, I'll cover some sort of trends that we're following that, and just sort of some things that are sort of top of mind for us. And I'll mention, obviously a few panels that might be interesting for folks to check out, or that I think will be particularly interesting, which may help people plan their agenda a little bit if they're already going. So basically, it's been a very crazy year in media and entertainment, especially the kids space. Obviously, we've come out of the pandemic, and that was nuts, and posed a ton of challenges that we're still sort of weeding through, and we'll sort of get through for still a number of years to come, because a lot of kids lost a lot of education during those 2 years, and their lives sort of changed, and they're learning in different ways now, and there's gaps. So coming out of the pandemic, obviously, is still sort of a thing that we're dealing with. But again, this year, obviously, from our perspective at Kidscreen, we've been focused on those Hollywood strikes, the writers and the actors strikes, which really affected productions in unprecedented ways this year. And, we're still going to feel the effects in 2024 considerably, despite both of the strikes being resolved and a lot of good things coming of that for actors and writers getting what they deserve in the industry. So yeah, there'll be a few links to our coverage of those strikes and sort of what was resolved for actors and writers there, if you're interested, and how it's sort of affecting the industry right now. I mean, yesterday the news came out that Thunderbird Entertainment, which is a very well-known company, they own Atomic Cartoons, which have done some fantastic kids series. They're undergoing cost-saving measures, including, the loss of certain roles following a revenue decline. And they obviously attributed the external economic factors, such as the Writers Guild of America strike. So that's, they'll probably be okay, but they're dealing with these challenges. And we'll probably see other companies, have to do some cost saving measures. And the strikes were, affected a lot of companies. I think that they said that animation wasn't maybe as affected. They obviously do other, dramas for adults and shows like that too. So it's a tricky time. Other sort of, and I'll get to a lot of more positives, but other things challenges that we're sort of seeing this year and ongoing. Obviously, production companies and producers, there's been a lot of consolidation due to cost-saving challenges. So they're dealing with it along with a lot of the major broadcasters and streamers. So it's leaving, more obstacles for indie production companies. A lot are making those tough decisions of whether they can continue or not at all, or they're looking to be acquired to survive. We're seeing a lot of small to mid-range production companies, kids production companies being acquired by other companies to sort of consolidate production capabilities with maybe another company's distribution capabilities or digital capabilities, because you need that all-inclusive power to help sell your shows. So that's a challenge. Plus, obviously, right now, it's harder than ever for original IP to get noticed. And we all love originals, and audiences still love originals, but it's a tough macroeconomic climate, and all of the major buyers are kind of leaning towards, big brand existing IPs with well-known audiences. They want safer bets like that. So it is harder if you have an original, it's got to be really cool looking, really unique, something completely different that we haven't seen before. So strategizing for an original is hard, and discoverability is still harder than ever. But we have lots of panels at Summit that are going to address those issues and give you great tips on maybe how to navigate that landscape. So yeah, I mean, it's almost impossible for a lot of production companies to even buy existing IP or big brands. So that's a problem, and you kind of have to maybe rely on public domain IP or new IP, lightly or loosely based on existing public domain IP. We're seeing more production companies have to really, use that as the key strategy, as much as we all want to get in on a really well-known IP like Paw Patrol or something. Also, the major streamers, Netflix, Warner Brothers, Discovery, and Disney Plus, they pulled a lot of kids' content from their platforms this year and canceled projects, movies, and series sort of in midstream as they grappled with adverse macroeconomic conditions. So yeah, the kids biz has had much more to contend with in 2023 than usual. They've had to deal with shifting production and release deliverable schedules due to the strikes, having to find new buyers, whether, that's digital or online, AVOD, opportunities are more common now. It's harder to find co-production partners, but to cobble your funding and your financing, you need more international support. So production companies are having to look to different countries and regions for tax break support. That requires a lot of time and effort, more time and effort when all you want to do is focus on your fun, creative stuff. So it's challenging. You have to be more sort of global in your perspective now, more so than ever. People are really looking to rejig value versus risk strategies in a tough macroeconomic climate. And a lot of animation studios are dealing with joining unions, which is great, but it does require a lot of work and communication and changes. So you have, so many have joined unions now. There'll be a ton of links if you want to follow the latest on that. Whether it's VFX workers or a lot of the big studios like Nickelodeon and Disney, Marvel, TVO in Canada. A lot of people are joining unions now, so it's good to know what's going on in that area, and Kidscreen's covered a lot of that extensively. So yeah, the industry's had to adapt like never before. But despite all the obstacles, kids and families are still watching a ton of content online, on streamers, and linear TV as well. There are still opportunities for linear. Linear is still very important in a lot of regions. A lot of the, most of the big European broadcasters, linear broadcasters, are going to be at Summit for pitching and meeting sessions, which is fantastic. And also, we do the Kidscreen Hot 50 every year, which sort of is a sort of snapshot of some of the best companies in the industry, and the industry votes on these companies' achievements. And that those winners will be coming out in December, and I've seen firsthand all of the great work that has been done in 2023, and that's across broadcasting, production, distribution, licensing, and digital media. So despite everything, the kids industry is resilient and creative, and despite all of the challenges, they still are able to produce a lot of great work. We have to work a little bit harder to get partnerships and to maybe get financing, but it is a bit cyclical, and there's always going to be demand for kids content. So it's great that we still see so much great work being done. And a lot of deals and everything and partnerships can be formed at Kidscreen Summit. We've seen a lot of companies come together at summits in the past. Maybe they didn't know each other before. Maybe they met randomly at a summit in a hallway, and they partner and come up with a next big hit show. It's been done. So there's lots of opportunities there. In terms of like traditional linear opportunities, yeah, the focus this year is, we've been covering the streamers cutting back and how it's sort of changing there, at least in the US, for sure. But we have seen that there's opportunities for linear broadcasters. I know in the UK, there's been major challenges, obviously with government funding cuts for the arts and the young audiences content fund not being renewed. But on a positive side, Sky Kids launched a new linear ad-free kids channel this year because they found in their research that there's growing demand for parents from parents for more scheduled programming, regular TV play dates for their kids. And that's really fantastic. It's unexpected, but they found a need for it, and they've launched it. Also, another kids channel called Moochie just launched in the UK on digital TV platform Freeview. And they found that there was a gap left by bigger broadcasters shutting down their linear services in the region. So that's like obviously BBC going digital with CBBC and ITV, and Disney shutting down some linear in the UK. So you've got Sky Kids and this new channel Moochie jumping in, and they're looking for to acquire content. Moochie's already rolled out content from 9 Story Media Group and Jetpack Distribution and Monster Entertainment, and that's preschool to tween demos. They're looking to build out the schedule for shows in development and acquisitions, and that's coming from their executive creative director Peter Drake. So it's a real testament to the growing importance of traditional TV for kids. Yeah, they'll have their challenges, but it's a really great sign that we're seeing some windows sort of open up and some gaps being filled. Also, I mean, a lot of you are in the UK and probably know this anyway, but BBC's Ignite initiative just put out a new call for animated TV series pitches, which is great. They received more than 1,000 pitches for their first round last year, and they shortlisted 3 series concepts this summer. Duck and Frog, Captain Onion's Point, Academy for Wayward Youth, great name, and The Underglow, all from some great creators, and they're currently in the process of being commissioned. So that's another great thing coming out of the UK. And a lot of these folks will be in and around Kidscreen Summit, so who knows where the next great project's going to come from. Couple other things I can mention. It's challenging get with financing, but we're kind of looking at tax incentives and where they are. Obviously, Canada, Italy, France, Gran Canaria, Ireland, UK, Australia all have pretty good tax breaks. Italy's growing. Gran Canaria is growing still. UK, there'll be some new opportunities in 2024 on that front, which I can get to a bit later, which you probably already know about. And in terms of just looking at future opportunities where there's maybe some growth for tax incentives or government support for kids content, Austria, Germany, Malaysia, Poland, Colombia, Africa, and even Japan is going to be growing as well. Skybound just announced it is launching a team in Japan for manga and anime crossovers, which is really interesting. And Kidscreen did a recent sort of full report on anime opportunities for kids content. So yeah, there's lots of activity globally happening. Hi, Sarah. Is there a question? How am I doing?
It's time. Doesn't time fly when
That's it, we're done.
You've got so many things that you are going to cover, and you're staying on and going into the panel so we can pick up on something.
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
Lauren has posted your links.
Great. Fantastic.
Please feel free, guys, to if you've got any questions, or when we get to the next bit, you can ask Jeremy questions. The one I wanted to pick up on, Jeremy, from what you were talking to me about the other day, was there was the family and kids opportunities, and also we talked about side hustles, and we talked about what you could do with your content, and you were talking about some of the conversations you'd had about cinema, about theatre, about events, and how you could use this time to really hone that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of kids and family movie opportunities. We have a big story coming out in our next issue, looking at those opportunities. We talked to Peer Analysis and got some really good insight on, those opportunities. It all started with the Mario movie, which was record-breaking. Kids and families are going back to the theaters in the biggest numbers ever since the pandemic ended, and that those trends will continue. And there's opportunities for smaller budget kids and family movies, especially in Europe. A lot of theater exhibitors are looking for content to fill gaps. There are going to be gaps in theaters next year because of the results of the strikes and everything. So yeah, there are opportunities for smaller budget movies, kids and family movies. Also opportunities for anime and faith-based. Theaters are looking for sort of other non-traditional content to fill slots too, which is interesting.
Just with the family side of things, because we saw that huge swift shift at the beginning of the pandemic. Not that we want to go back to talking about that, but it seems as if that has continued to now, and that people with the money are still looking for those things that bring in the parents as well as the child.
Yeah,
is that what people should be thinking about as they come out to Kidscreen?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's the sort of the all audiences, the four quadrant, the getting the kids and families to enjoy content. That's what a lot of buyers are still looking for, and it's tricky to find the right balance. It's one of the big challenges, is finding that balance of nostalgic content, but also content that offers something new and fresh for kids. That's something that's going to be very important for creators, over the next year. I would say, yeah.
And I know, I know we've only got a tiny bit of time, but we talked about, and we'll pick up again on this, about expanding IPs beyond YouTube,
right.
And just looking at that side of things. And I know you've got some links in there about that.
Yeah, I mean, expanding beyond YouTube, Amuse Animation is an interesting company, and they're going to be at a panel, Kidscreen Summit. They're kind of like Moonbug. They're making a ton of low budget animation shows, but also they do a range of budgeted shows, which is interesting. And they're doing spin-offs and selling a lot of preschool content outside of YouTube to linear broadcasters, to other platforms. We're seeing more people leverage Roblox for shows and games, branded games. TikTok is very important for kids in terms of marketing. YouTube Shorts is very important in terms of getting a strategy there. There's more kids watching YouTube Shorts, things like that. Other opportunities, preschool movie blocks in theaters. Bing's been very successful. That stitched preschool content into episodic content from TV into a movie and having a big event around it. That's been very popular in Europe, and it's growing. Peppa Pig's doing a big one too in theaters. Airline sales is a fringe opportunity as well. It's a little tricky, but there's still some growth there. And scary content. I've got a link to a great story we did about sort of horror content for kids. That's still really popular with kids. Video game adaptation, tons of opportunities for video game adaptations. Obviously Mario was big, Arcane was big, but there are a ton of IPs that are a little smaller that even aren't fantasy based. There's lots of room for different genres, even coming out of the gaming space. So those are just some things that we're kind of eyeing as well. Yeah,
I think if we bring in the panel, because I know when we're talking about video games that we have Jon, who is doing video games, so he'll be talking about that later. So what I wanted to do was riff off what you've done, and please do, for our participants, go and look at Jeremy's links, because there's so much stuff he had about so many different areas that he's just scratched the surface on. Well,
yeah, sorry to ramble on.
there's a bit of realism in what he was saying, and we have to be realistic. None of us are here to sugarcoat everything. However, I think as we go through with our esteemed panel will know that there's definitely opportunity. And one of the things that you've talked about, Jeremy, without saying the word, is about flexing and about really learning to flex. And I think we're going to use that as the epicenter for our panel. So I'm delighted to welcome into the mix. We have Paul McKenzie, who is a producer, a development exec, and a writer. So you cover many sides of things. He focuses on live action. He's
lots of hats.
He's got lots of hats. Live action is more what you've been doing in the last couple of years, particularly in the sort of older children's market, but we'll get there. We've got Joyce Miller, who's a consultant advisor, and we've got Jon Rennie, the MD of Cloth Cat. Going to ask them all just to give us a quick snapshot, the non-corporate snapshots of what they do and how they can help and how you can connect in. Paul, do you want to give us 1 minute on what you're doing and how you see things?
I am good to be here. I started as a writer back in the day, so that's always in the back of my head. I worked on a show called Desmond's many years ago for Channel 4, and I went the other way, went to the kids because I just thought it was very creative and imaginative, and wanted a part of that, and ended up at the BBC developing lots of long-running shows like Ka-Ching, Sadie J, Hetty Feather, and also then moved on to be head of development to Disney, where I got them back into their live action, UK live action scripted content, and did the same for Sky Kids with the Athena, which was a teen drama, and so I go from writing, developing, producing. And currently, I am developing a small slate of projects that take my fancy, but also allows me to write as well. And one of them is a kids project, live action, that is in development at the BBC at the moment, about a skateboarder, and her mother is a pastor in an African church. So that's me.
Thank you very much. Joyce, over to you.
Thank you. As Paul said, it's lovely to be here. Thank you for including. Joyce Miller, I'm an animation production executive. My background is that I am British. I came to the States about 28 years ago for a couple of years, and I'm still here. My background is that when I started out in animation, I was in London working with a small studio creating mainly 2D television commercials. Although there was one early CG commercial in there as well, and then came to the States and made the transition from being an animation producer into being an animation production executive. I've worked with Walt Disney Television Animation and worked extensively with overseas studios in the production pipeline, and was at the start of Disney Toon, helping establish Disney Toon in production. I've worked with smaller studios here in LA, as well as continuing with some larger ones. At Spin Master, I helped establish the entertainment division and worked in development in LA, and we established the production pipeline in Canada. And then I joined Netflix in 2018 to establish the production team for animated series and also our processes of how we would work. Since the beginning of this year, I have started a small company, and I'm doing animation consulting, and I have clients in the UK and also here in the States, in Canada, one client in Europe and also South America. So it's a nice kind of broad scope for me, working with people throughout the world.
Fabulous. Jon, you can tell us about your many hats.
Yeah, hi. So I'm Managing Director of Cloth Cat. So we're an animation and games company based in Cardiff in Wales. We have been going for about just over 10 years now, working with various people around the UK and around the world, a few people on this call as well. I started off in computer games early, not 25 years ago, back in the midst of time, and then went to filmmaking, then visual effects, and then settled in kids animation and games, which I much prefer and much enjoy. So yes, we are an animation service company, as well as being managing our own IP and also building up our game slate as well. Now we've done a number of games over the years for different clients, and now we're starting to build up our own IP, working on console platforms, Steam and Switch, mainly probably the kids market, which is what we're looking at. So for me, going out to Kidscreen now, that's what I'm also bringing to the market this year.
So thank you. The reason that I wanted everybody to say a bit more about what they do is because I want that Q&A button to start going. You've got amazing minds who've been in the industry for a while. And one thing I'm going to say is, I think we've all been through some cycles before where actually this is a fantastically interesting time. And it's a time of opportunity. It's a time to flex, to regroup, not do the same as everybody else and come out ahead. So that's what we want to do in this section, is just really get underneath what's happening and how to get ready to go out there. So I've called this bit getting our ducks in a row. So I think whether or not you're planning to go to Kidscreen, you're thinking about it, or you've already booked, everybody should be getting their ducks in a row for next year, because there is that pivot. We do need to start strong. So I'm just going to start with Jon Rennie. Jon, what do you think is different? What do you think, in terms of being an indie, people are seeing that's different, and what do they need to work on in order to be ready for 2024?
Yeah, I think it's quite a lot different this year. You've got a lot more. We're all recovering from pandemic and there's writer strikes and everything else. We've seen a downturn in terms of commissioning, but I think that we're starting to come out of that now. I think everyone's saying that there's going to be hopefully an upsurge later next year. So Kidscreen is the perfect time to be going out to pitch and also to get your projects out there. I think you're going to see a lot more people looking for services. You're looking to see a lot more partnerships around the world. And that's where, for us, Kidscreen has always been very valuable. Making those links is the one conference where we get to meet a lot of people from all over the world in different places that aren't locked to one particular in one particular continent. So I think, for us, we are taking, the idea is looking for wider opportunities, wider partnerships, where maybe there weren't partnerships before, where there may be co-productions with other countries that you might not have seen before. I think things are opening up a lot more now.
So something that occurred to me was, we've talked about relationship, we've talked about networking, and we've talked about business, and it's that flexing the two. And in the past, it's been quite fluid and different people have done it in different ways. How do you see getting that balance of flexing between probably having more ducks in a row and being more focused, but equally making sure you don't forget the relationship? How do you think that's going to balance out in the next 6 months or so?
I think the key thing is about being available for opportunities. I think there's always the thing is the fact that you want to be out there, you want to be in front of people, you want to be the person that they are looking to once they have an opportunity available, once they have another project they want to bring to the market. It's about being, the right partner, the right friend for them. It's all about relationships. A lot of it comes down to obviously money and contracts and so forth, but really it's about relationships. Can they work with you in the long term? Are you going to be able to listen to them? Are they going to be able to have creative conversations with you? I think that's the key thing. And that's where, obviously you go to Kidscreen for the first time, you are built, just starting out. Sometimes people just go to Kidscreen for, just to fact find, or to find. That's what we did the first time. We just went and said, we're going to find out what the lie of the land is, find out who's going, find out what people are looking for, and then come back in the following years with projects that we know we can target to people. And I think this year is going to be, in some ways we're going to be doing that again. I think the way that the broadcasts have changed, the way that they are approaching things differently, means that we're all going to be doing a little bit more fact finding. I want to make sure, that we have a clear strategy for the company and a clear company promotion, not just the projects we are, but who we are as a company as well.
Paul, do you want to hop in on that one?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. The theme that runs throughout is that it is a changed market, but partnership is key. There are fewer slots, and if we can group together with other companies, we, almost like a union. So I'm looking for perhaps a bigger company who could get me through the door. They may have some traction with a broadcaster rather than directly going to the broadcaster. Of course, you will go with the broadcaster if you can. But it's about gaining those little connections that are then going to help you. Because at the moment I am a small indie, and I need to partner up. So yeah, I totally agree with what everybody else said about partnership is key. Don't expect too much, but also be flexible.
So I think that's really important. And in terms of doing business, particularly doing business with the States, because that's, if we are going out there, they're a key player in the English speaking market. I want to bring in Joyce here with her view from LA. You've been there a while and you've worked with many different people. We all know there's a slightly different rhythm. So what are you seeing? Is there a shift? And how do people need to start thinking? Because what we've promised everybody is that by the end of this session, they know how to get their company and projects noticed when they go out there and how to get meetings and pitches. What would you say from the LA perspective that the Brits need to be aware of?
Well, completely echo what people have already been saying. I think all of the advice that's been given so far about how to approach going to Kidscreen and making sure that you are strategizing ahead, who are you interested in meeting, doing your research, making sure that you're looking at, depending on your strategy, whether you're wanting to put forward your own IP or if you're wanting to have partnerships with other companies. I would suggest, even although you do all of your own research, that you also make sure that you are staying open when you're actually at Kidscreen to ways of being very approachable to the people that you would meet in Los Angeles, because there's a sense of we're coming out of a cycle which has been a very hesitant cycle. The people in the studios have been very much from 2021 doing a lot of reflection on what they're making, the quantity of work that they're making, what kind of shows. And they're now coming out of that phase with decisions made about what they may be looking for. The feeling here in Los Angeles from a number of people is that it might be the second quarter of next year when things are beginning to move. So Kidscreen is really pretty well timed to allow people to be having a lot of mixing with studios, with broadcasters, not just Los Angeles people, but also people from up throughout the world. And I think you've really got to do your own research with yourselves about what you're really looking to do and what kind of work you want to do. You may have your own IP and you may want to pitch that, but be really approachable about looking at partnerships, as people have said, because from within a studio and looking out as a production executive, there's always projects that we want to start with companies when they are pitching good material to the creative executives. But getting to know a studio that you would want to work with, there can be many smaller opportunities of partnering with other studios in co-productions where your studio may not have been so well known at the beginning of that co-production, but having done a good job and been reliable and creative throughout it is going to finish that work with you being much more understood and having a working relationship with a broadcaster or a streamer. I do think that never kind of be so single-minded maybe about when you make your strategy and then you come to Kidscreen, be open to chance things that happen, other companies that you meet, other broadcasters that you might be bumping into. I think that there's a lot to be said for going to the networks and networking situations and being very straightforward about introducing yourself, sharing your information, and also going up to panelists as they come off panels and talking about what you've gained from hearing them speak. It's about making, you do represent your company, but you also want to make sure you make a relationship and that it's a good business relationship. So I think that there's many opportunities, but I think it's really not being very, make your strategy, but don't be fixed in what you want to achieve. Be open to what might happen once you're there. And maybe also see if you can add some time to spending a few days in Los Angeles and also meeting with studios or following up with people here, because it's a good opportunity of being here on the West Coast. Last month, Screen Scotland and Animation Scotland brought 8 studios to LA to go to the Animation Summit. And in addition, they added on 2 days, and I helped organize meeting with studios. And I found that studios, big studios, were very open to meeting with people. They were interested in hearing what the experiences were of studios that they might not have known about and were interested in working with them. And I think that there's a good interest in the UK. I'm probably going on a little bit too long here, but I also want to say geography is something that's not huge here in the States. If you have a studio that is outside London or in Wales or Scotland or Northern Ireland, do make sure you're always sharing with streamers and broadcasters that you too access the UK tax credits and also local tax credits, because I think there will be less productions made than a few years ago, which is probably a good thing because it was unsustainable. I feel the volume that was going through before. But I think that the quality will still be absolutely worth doing. But you might find that broadcasters and streamers are looking to have smaller budgets than they were paying in 2021, 2020, 2021.
So I think a question, and I have got one in a minute for Jon, but a question that comes up a lot, or a frustration that comes up a lot, is how do you get into the Netflix and the Disneys that you've worked at? Because if you know them already, then it's easier. If you don't, there's tactics. In the old Kidscreen, people would be lurking in the corridors, stalking. It's when that bit about following people into the bathroom comes up, because people get slightly desperate. So how do people start doing emails, or what's the strategy to try and get yourself in the diary before you go?
I think it is hard. And also I think it's especially hard right now because these studios have been regrouping, reorganizing, and they've literally gone quiet. And now there's a real hesitancy. So if you know of people who know people in these studios, use your contacts, make sure that you're really not shy, but always very polite. But if you do know someone who's able to introduce you, use that. I would also say that at those networking events, those are really helpful because people are attending and they're expecting to have people come up and speak to them. So using that, I do think, and I feel as if I saw it recently in that summit, there were so many panel situations where people were able to get access to that industry executive leaving the panel. And the industry executive was feeling good about having shared information, and they were very open and receptive. And that allowed for some introductions. I think also don't neglect the corridors, because you might see people that you recognize and they might be very open to you going up and introducing yourself. So I think feel free to do that. I've found that people have introduced themselves to me in the lift. And I think sometimes when you're maybe with people, even casually in the corridors, if that person is known to studios, those studio people will come up and say hello, and you will get the benefit of being introduced if you're with that person. That's something that I found I was really doing in that last summit with the Scottish studios. Whoever was with me was getting the benefit of being introduced to people who might come up and say hello. But there's no set way of doing it. I think you've just got to be open, approachable, not be single-minded and kind of desperate where someone might want to avoid you a little bit. They might be a little anxious about your anxiety. Be very open and engaged, absolutely interested in your work, but be interested in their work. Do your research on what kind of work they've done in the past, either their company or they themselves, and do research on yourself, because if you do have a meeting that you've got planned, that LA executive will have done their research on you, and your website may not reflect what you're really wanting to reflect about yourself just now. So make sure that your LinkedIn and your website is putting forward the approachableness that you want to share and the kind of work you want to do. But you sometimes just got to be open, friendly, and alert.
That's fabulous. And I'm sure lots of people have got lots of questions. Joyce, very kindly, because we knew we hadn't got a huge amount of time, has done an amazing PowerPoint for everybody, which explains things from the US point of view, which Lauren will be putting into the chat. I'm just going to go to Paul, and then I've got a question for Jon, and then we're going to go into a quick fire round where I'm going to ask you questions. We're going to zoom through them. But first of all, Paul, you're in the UK and you have a view on the live action. What do you think the shifts are? I mean, Jeremy's mentioned family. Where do you think the boundaries are between young people, adults, children, particularly for going to Kidscreen, and what you would take out to a market like this, where the buyers out there are thinking 6+?
It's all change, and it is pretty tough, but there are opportunities. The big change is that live action comedy drama tends to be a maximum of up to 12, so between 6 and 12. And we've always tried to cater for that other, slightly older market, but and ever since I've been at BBC or Disney, we've kind of failed. But I think that there's a slight shift now, and a show like Heartstoppers is a game changer, because ostensibly it is an innocent sort of a love story, but they've found a niche area. And kids, we know that our audiences want older than themselves. So even though we're catering to 12, they want a bit of, want to feel like they're getting sort of the 14, 15. And I think a show like Heartstoppers does something like that. And I think the opportunity going to market is, what is my, in the safe boundary, what is that niche that can move the dial with Heartstoppers is LGBTQ, with Phoenix Rise, which is an award-winning school precinct. It's ostensibly a school drama, but it has that exclusion, kids excluded from school, danger area, which is why it's been picked up by BBC Three recently. So suddenly things have slightly changed. But in terms of thinking about the audience wants something that is something that they can recognize, but that also slightly punches above, but within the remit of trying to keep it within sort of safe boundaries. So there are opportunities. So there's that. There's also the other thing of having older leads in the show. And it's a budgetary thing, but there are more and more shows. The BBC want to have shows that don't have kids in them, that have adults. They tend to skew younger because they act silly. It's just that there's a flex going on with appealing to audiences who want to feel like they're older, and that we can then take them away from the more adult shows, so that there's this sort of safe community. I feel that's the big opportunity that we're trying to crack. It's safe, but feels like we're moving it forward in terms of the boundaries, pushing the boundaries, which is what we're trying to do with our skateboarding one. She's rebelling, but actually it's a very safe family show. A family, if only we could crack the family, like Modern Family. Sarah and I, we were talking about this. It's the perfect show for kids and watching it with your parents. If we could do something like that for kids, I think that's going to be the next big hit.
So what I'm hearing is think laterally, flex, which is the word we came up with the other day, is this is the year of the flex. I'm just going to have to move everybody on because we're going to have to wrap at the half hour. So I'm going to go into quite a quick fire round. I'm going to start with the question that we've got in the questions from Tom. Don't know where the rest of them. I think Tom must be the audience. It's a great question. Do you know if there's a growing appetite for incorporating interactivity into kids' shows, using tech to gamify series that have an educational element? John, that's probably...
Yeah, I was thinking about that. I don't know. I mean, they've tried second screen a lot, and we did it once for a project, but it never really worked out because people either want to be passively watching or interacting. They don't want to be doing both at once. I think what you're seeing is kids are going to consoles younger now. The Roblox and Minecraft sort of generation are moving to consoles faster, and that's what we're seeing, which is where there's a broader range then for parents who want to buy their kids games rather than with maybe mobile devices where people are just used to not paying for anything. So, but I think what you need to do is see it as what added content you can provide that's interactive, that's a bit different to the passive narrative content you've got in your show. What can you do that boosts your brand with interactivity? What extra value can you provide so that the kids can then go, tell you what, I'm going to play the game and I'm going to get more information from it, particularly educational. What can you more than just simply here's a, for example, if it's an educational show about geography, obviously in the narrative sense, you can say what we made Dora the Explorer or something like that. But what can the game provide that's deeper, that gives them more knowledge that then they can take into elsewhere, into other things as well? I think that's what you're seeing. What added value can provide to the brand with interactivity.
Thank you. So I'm going to go really quick fire so we can get through these really quickly. So all of you on screen, and sort of one word, one sentence answers. Opportunities, preschool, bridge, live action. What buckets are going to get traction out of those? Which would you? Anybody wants to dive in? Where do we think that?
I'll dive in to say I'm not sure if I would say that one would be more than the other. I think that we'll only find that out once we get a little bit further into 2024. But something I would say is a real opportunity for animation studios is that the broadcasters and streamers probably need your services more than before. Because in the past, many of the studios, Netflix, Disney, did more in-house development and pre-production and then sent the production part elsewhere and carried out the post themselves. Now, what's come out of this last kind of reorganization, there is going to be more of the development work and the pre-production work and the whole production, including post, being working in partnership with a studio. So that in the past, it may have been that studios were more used to getting production service work, and some were partnering and working on their own IP as a partner. But I think that if you have a good development group and you're also very well up on pre-production, I think you've actually got more opportunities. And another point for the UK is that we've often been seen as a little bit more expensive, good quality. But there's a freshness about maybe not having used the UK as much as, say, forgive me, Jeremy, Canada and also Ireland. Those countries have really been absolutely together on their animation studios, putting forward information. They will be finding it a little bit hard in that the quality is still to be as good, but the budget's going to be less than they have received before. So there could be a freshness in the executives getting to know the UK studios and understanding more about the overall tax credits, local situations that are very helpful, and just maybe being more open to discovering relationships there. So development and pre-production are really good. Even if you just get an agreement to do development, it could absolutely lead to the whole show coming to you.
So, because we need to wrap in a minute, I'm going to say, Jeremy, you mentioned film, events, digital theatre. Has anybody got anything else they want to add to that? One word each. This is like one of those game shows.
well, there's a possible sort of hybrid. There's a possible hybrid, which is live action with animation. We haven't quite nailed that yet, and I think that's coming if we can get it right. But it needs us working with great animators in these, and vice versa. But I think that which then taps into what Jon was saying about, and answering Tom's question about interactivity, which just gives you infinite possibilities.
And linking back to something Joyce was saying, and Jeremy, you might come in on this one, your personal brand, and just going in there, and how do you stand out? Well, you've got 1,800 people there, and you don't want to be extra loud. How? Because I think you and I were there once, and Jeremy doesn't, I'm going to say this, we were there once when somebody came up to you in another market to say that you hadn't responded quickly enough to their email and had to go in front of the entire queue, and they'd only sent it in 2 weeks before, and you were heading out to a market, and it's that person, the personal brand. At that point, that person was nervous, they were in their own head, they suddenly saw Jeremy and wanted an answer and went for it in the queue to go into a networking event in front of us all.
Yeah, I mean, I think the others have sort of provided some really good tips on, how to best approach people. It really is about being open and not being so, with your blinders on with your one project, and just to meet as many people as you can from different areas. I think it's still really important, just randomly in the hallways, even if you're getting coffee. And just listen, listen to what everyone's doing, and take that in, and don't be so, driven on one idea. The others have said it really well, and I think it'll still be the case going forward.
So the main topic we haven't really covered, which I think you mentioned, Jeremy, a little bit. You mentioned value versus risk. And we talked the other day about risk-averse buyers and what was happening and how to be fresh and make those buyers feel safe. Anybody got one half sentence, because we need to go to your top tips and out.
I'm happy to jump in. So it's in order to stand out, I think you just need to be really unique and personal. In terms of your project, and be responsive to what they're after. Really, I think it's those two things.
I think something we talked about, and I'm just going to proceed this, was making what you're saying so that people can pick it up and tell on, because you're pitching to one person. They may be the head of their whole organization. if you're pitching in a way that they get a bit muddled halfway through, it's very hard for them to say, I saw this fantastic idea. It's about a pig. This is why you have to go for it. And keep fighting for it and get the things in. And they've got to feel passionate and go and talk to somebody else. Even if they're the chief exec, they're still going to have to talk to their finance people. Just because you go higher up the ladder doesn't mean that they're not going to have to talk to others about that final decision. They are more risk averse. They are looking for that value, as Jeremy said, and it's really doing that. So we're just going to whiz round everybody and go one top tip, and then I'm going to pass over to Greg and Lauren. So first up, Joyce, top tip, half a sentence.
I feel that you should always be protecting your ideas, make sure that you're safe with your own IP. Absolutely always make sure you've got legal advice. As you talk to people in the States, I would suggest, I'm going to hold it up, this is a great little book to have. You can get it through Amazon, and it doesn't mean you need to be your own lawyer, but if you read through the shape of many of these deals, it just lets you feel more comfortable as you are making a deal. So that's my tip. Protect yourself.
Oops, sorry. So yeah,
Sorry, Jon.
And me. Yeah, I'd say be flexible. I think allowing people time to ask you questions when you're doing a pitch and when you're talking to people, rather than just talking at them, because they don't need all the information. Give them opportunities to ask you questions. They're more likely to remember you if they're asking you questions. You know, these days, everything is across platform. You know, there's no longer exclusivity to one thing. Be prepared to be flexible with your idea and how it's going to sit on different platforms, different broadcasters.
Thank you very much, Paul.
And I agree. The flexibility is what I would say is my takeaway. And it's like being an actor. You have to listen to what they're saying, even though you've come in with something, listen to what they're saying, and best acting is reacting and react to what they're actually saying, so that you can then take it off. I was talking to somebody who was a Kiwi indie, and she was saying any ideas, and none of my ideas were. But you then quickly go to your Rolodex of adapting it. Yes, it was in space, but this could be set in Wellington. That flexibility. So they're now looking at the pitch. That's just an example.
Thank you very much. And it's quite new, because the old flexibility thing was you needed to be clear, and now we're more flexible. Just to finish us off, Jeremy, what would your top tip be for people thinking about coming?
Yeah, I mean, those are all great tips from everyone. I agree with all of that. I don't know. I think just people should try, if they can, to sort of plan a really balanced attack of pre-arranged meetings, and along with chats with consultants, but also, you know, pick maybe one or two panels or the data or research or educational things that we present that you want to check out, if it's specific to something that you're pitching or working on or developing. You know, pick a few of those, and also the social activities. Just try to really have a nice balanced agenda. Don't get too focused in one area. Again, be flexible, and be open to all of the things. Because if you're new, Summit's pretty crazy, and it can be a little overwhelming. But I do recommend that people plan sort of a balanced approach.
So thank you so much for everybody for your time. Hopefully we'll see everybody out in San Diego, if not before. We need to probably whiz through the last piece. So I'm going to pass to Greg, and we're going to focus now on the Kidscreen delegation itself. And we have the wonderful Lauren now joining us, who comes to Kidscreen and is the person you'll probably talk to as you arrange to do that. Over to you.
Hello, everybody.
Well,
sorry, Greg.
Hello. No, I'm just going to say thanks to everyone. That was really, really interesting. Over to you, Lauren, to tell everybody about the delegation.
I'm keen to speed through the delegation benefits. That's what it is. So I'll go quite fast through these as we're nearly at the end. So the first thing about joining the delegation, the big benefit is that you get a discount on your Kidscreen Summit ticket. So the delegation members get the ticket for $1,595, and that's a discount of $600, and it's the lowest discount that you'll get at Kidscreen. The other benefit is that you'll also get your profile and your project information on our UK Kidscreen webpage. And we'll also have QR codes over on the UK stand in San Diego. So it's easy for people to scan those and have a look at your profile that's on our webpage. We'll also be showing a show reel. So we'll have quite a long show reel, which will have everybody who's on the delegation. We'll edit all that together for you. So that'll be looping constantly on our stand so people can view it. And then talking of the UK stand and area, this is basically where the UK delegation is based. So we're usually in the corner of one of the ballrooms, and you'll have all the other delegations around there as well. We'll have a big, massive UK backdrop, and we'll have a number of tables in our area as well. So you'll be able to spot us quite easily because we also have a lot of Union Jack lamps. So it's very evident that we're British. And it's a really good place to tell people to meet you because it's really easy to find. The tables we have on our area, they're a really big benefit as well. So we'll have about 8 or 9 tables in our area, and they're solely for the use of the UK delegation. So you'll have slots that you're able to book. So once you've got your meetings, it just makes it a lot easier if you get people to come meet you at the stand, and then you know that you've got a table there if you've booked a slot in, rather than trying to find somewhere at the last minute and kind of walking around with people. So that's a really good benefit. And then we mentioned before about the breakfast briefings as well, which are every morning of the summit. So they're usually about 8:30 till 9, just half an hour just before the summit starts, and we'll have invited speakers, and it's a really useful way to start your day and get yourself ready for your meetings and get some advice and do some networking. And we also have our UK Kidscreen drinks reception. So that takes place on Saturday, the 3rd of February, the day before Kidscreen. That's going to be at the Hilton Gas Lamp District. So that's about a 5-minute walk from the main venue. And that is for basically the UK delegation to meet invited guests. So if there are anybody that you want to meet or you want to invite as part of the delegation, you can let me know and we'll try our best to get them there. We try not to invite other UK people because it is a benefit for the UK delegation, but obviously we invite the big ones like Sky, BBC, etc. And before we get to San Diego, we also have some advice clinics, which are just for the delegation. There's one in December and one in January. And this is your chance to come along and sort of ask any questions or raise any concerns that you've got. And you can chat to me and Greg and Sarah and probably Tony Humphries from Department of Trade as well. And of course, we're here to assist you with any queries anytime, really. So in the run up to Kidscreen, we'll be around. Once we get a bit nearer to Christmas, I'll start sending updates out, which will have key dates and things like that for Kidscreen. So I try to just have a look through all the Kidscreen info and kind of condense it into bullet points to kind of give you a heads up. Obviously, download all the links and slides that we've put in this webinar as well. And then on the ground at Kidscreen, we'll be there to help you and get the best out of the event as well. And it tends to be quite a supportive group. So it's not just us giving advice, but the delegation are all kind of supporting each other as well. So that was a really quick overview of the benefits. Obviously, if you have any questions, just pop them in the Q&A or just drop me an email afterwards. And
we've got a few questions. We've got a few questions already. So Michael Ford is asking, when is the deadline to register with UK Kidscreen so that you can be featured on the show reel? And that's actually quite late, isn't it? That we can go on. But what's the official deadline?
I'm not sure. I think we could probably do it a couple of weeks before Kidscreen.
Yeah, it's at least 2 weeks before Kidscreen. We're okay because we edit in-house and we do it fast. So and we compile and slowly, so if somebody comes in, they can be slotted in. So that it'll be in January. It's not like now.
No.
And Roz asks, is the table space guaranteed if you're part of the delegation? What's your system, Lauren?
It's very complicated. It's not really. It's Google Sheet. Basically, I'll break it down into, I think, half an hour slots. You do have to be aware that it is for the entire delegation, so you can't have a table for the entire time. What we find is that people tend to book meetings. They think that they're going to need an entire day to have the meetings, and they don't, because they whittle it down to the important meetings. So what we say is try and book, I think maybe 8 slots a day we're limited to, or 6 slots a day, just so everyone can share it. But we do have reservation systems, so I'll always try and move everybody around and get a space somewhere.
And then Tom's asking, that I understand there's no funding available from the Department of Trade to supplement the cost of the trip, nor from Film London. Would appreciate any leads on potential funding opportunities for the trip, but no worries if not. Yes, well, yeah, there did used to be grants from the Department of Trade to help out with costs of trips, but they have dried up, I'm afraid. And I didn't realise Film London don't have anything. I know Film London will be present with the delegation, but it's a difficult one. The best course to find funding is through your region. So London, being a region, would be one of those. Wales, Scotland, Ireland, Northern Ireland, you're going to be more likely to be able to get a hold of something. Do we know of any other?
Not at the moment, but I would say, like you said, if you do contact your regional office, sometimes they have money left over from the financial year, so they're not really advertising it very well. So that they then sort of go, oh, there's a pot here. So
you need to find your regional offices either for existing funding organisations like Film London or Screen Northern Ireland or Screen Scotland, or you can go. There are people who represent the Department for Business and Trade in those areas, and you can find those on the Department for Business and Trade website and make contact with them. They're aware of Kidscreen. They know there is a British delegation, and in fact, some of them, the Northern Ireland group, are actually supporting Kidscreen, UK at Kidscreen. And Michael asks, when does the table bookings go live?
It'll be the 15th of December. So book onto delegation before then.
I add into that what Maggie said earlier, which is there's far more space on the sofas. So where before there was it got quite tight in terms of space, there's more space in the general ballroom area.
Yeah, so I mean, the key thing I think for everyone to be aware of is one of the major benefits is the reception. It is an exclusive ticket. It's on the Saturday, and it's very important if you really want to get maximum benefit out of Kidscreen to be there by Saturday evening for this reception, and anyway to settle in so that you're ready to go on Sunday morning. It's not an early start on Sunday morning, but it will kick off on Sunday morning. So being with us for the reception is important. We have upwards of 7 sponsors for that reception, including Aardman and Dubbit and others. And it's a key way for you to invite not your mates, but people you want to impress. So we will be interested to hear from you who you would like to invite to the reception, but it isn't designed, it's designed to people that you're in partnership with, who you want to woo a little bit more, or people you would like to be in partnership with. Clearly, it's also designed for the people you would like to meet and impress, but be aware, of course, that we will be inviting all the broadcasters to it, all the broadcaster representatives, and most of the bigger distributors and other platforms. But where we want to hear from you is where there are some sort of key producers who are looking for partnership, or where you specifically want to impress or say thank you to someone. That the reception is there for you to do that. In general, all I can say is, we'll be there to help you in any way we can. I'm hoping to get there myself, which will be the first time for a good few years, but I would like to see what things are like in San Diego, because of course, if we're going to be talking about Kidscreen, then we need to know what it is. Any final questions? No more questions in the Q&A. So I'm closing my Q&A. There you go. I think what's left for us to say is register. For goodness sake, register. Join the delegation. We need you to be with us. We will give you every support you can. We also need your support into the delegation. The more people we have in the delegation, the more delegations will thrive in the future with support from government. So it's really it's an important symbiotic relationship. Big thank you to all our speakers today: Jeremy, Jon, Joyce, Paul, Maggie, and of course a huge thank you to Sarah, who set all this up and has been, at the backbone of our approach to Kidscreen for many years. And thank you, Lauren, as well, for all the information. Don't hesitate to contact the office if you want more information. That's what we're there for. And do have a look at the UK Kidscreen website, where you get direct links through to be able to register for UK Kidscreen, and then you will get your codes to register more cheaply for Kidscreen. If you've decided not quite to go to Kidscreen yet, then think about the first, a very good first time market, which is the International Exchange at CMC. That's what this slide is about. And we can announce, here's a world exclusive, that will take place live again, which it hasn't done in the past, on the 9th of July, which means I'm now revealing the dates of CMC to you and you alone, the 10th and 11th of July, a week later than it's been in recent years. So 9th of July, International Exchange, really good market, relatively low cost. Here in the UK, we'll be bringing especially European broadcasters over for that. And of course, loads of British broadcasters and distributors and others to meet at that. You should be able to get in around 20 meetings in the day. And then you're there and ready to go with CMC, which starts the minute the market finishes. So it's time for us to go. Time for you to go. All our content is on the YouTube channel, Children's Media Conference YouTube channel. Fantastic series of videos at the moment about the confluence between education and entertainment, and these incredible innovators who've been working in both fields, and more videos to come in the new year as we kick off the pre-CMC video season, which will start around about the 18th of January, and fortnightly there'll be videos. And we have 2 advice clinics. Sarah, do you want to talk about those just quickly?
Yeah, we have the 2 advice clinics. It's where you can, if you're registered, you can come and ask questions about going. And I have noticed on LinkedIn, somebody was talking about being on the webinar and still not quite knowing whether they should go or not. I'd say if anybody's wondering, they should get in touch with us and have a chat with us, and we can even recommend people that they might need to talk to make that decision. And the other thing that from that advice clinic is we start bringing everybody together, and you start getting a very collegiate group who support each other. And I think when you talk to people that have been before, it's that collegiate group that really help people going, not just for the first time, but just going and getting their heads around what's going on, reactions to different things, swapping intel, etc.
Okay.
And somebody has just asked what time the party is on a Saturday, because last year there were people that needed to book their flights at different times to get there. They were all coming in a bit late.
It starts at 6 to 8 p.m.
And give yourself time to get through the airport.
Okay, we should close. We've run over horrendously. But thank you all for staying with us, and thank you to those who've already joined the delegation. We look forward to meeting you out in San Diego, if not at the pre-briefing meetings, the clinics that are, I'm afraid, exclusive to those who've already registered. So good time to register in advance of the first clinic, where you can really get down to brass tacks with Sarah and others about how Kidscreen works. Thank you all. Thanks, everybody. And goodbye.